So yeah, I'm very much for crypto because it's not a question of a personal thing. Because I let my kids do whatever the hell they do, they can do. I don't talk to them about it. I'm allowed to, I think. I'm allowed to, but I don't bother because this office is a much higher calling.
Donald Trump keeps getting questions about how much he and his family have made off their cryptocurrency ventures. Those comments this morning seem to derail what the president was expected to focus on, ringing the opening bell for the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ for his Trump accounts. Those are the investment accounts for children under 18 and the $1,000 available for kids born during his second term. Joining us, MS Now business analyst and author of The Message of the Markets on Substack, Ron Insana. MS Now senior White House reporter Vaughn Hilliard with us as well, along with managing editor of The Bulwark and MS Now contributor Sam Stein. Let's talk about crypto, Ron. Donald Trump has a meme coin, made a whole lot of money off of it. I think it's like $365 million. A million others did not make money off this meme coin. They lost a total of $3.8 billion. What's up with that?
Well, Katie, listen, if it were anyone other than the president, I would assume that regulators, and I believe it was more than $350 million that he made, by the way. If it were anyone other than the president, I think regulators would be looking into this as a potential pump and dump scheme where you launch something, you make a profit, and your investors take rather sizable losses. For a coin that really means nothing, as many crypto coins, can be compared. There's really no financial use for most of these so-called meme coins that have been issued. I believe there's over 13 million of them circulating right now. Bitcoin and Ethereum being the most well-known cryptocurrencies, but this is dicey stuff. I mean, if this were just a regular person floating a meme coin, making that much money, and then having investors lose that much money, it, in my mind, would be a distinct regulatory problem.
635 million, according to that graphic we just had, just double basically what I said a moment ago. It's a whole lot of money for individual investors to lose. Sam, what do you think of what the president just said at the top there? About how his office, the presidential office, is a much higher calling for him and matters more to him than making all that cash?
Well, I mean, it may be true, but he could certainly do things to prove it, right? I mean, he doesn't have to get involved in these what essentially look like efforts to boost certain stocks that he owns. He doesn't have to do all these copious amounts of trading, and he insists that he has no understanding what kind of trading they're going on. He can, if that were the case, he could instruct whoever's doing it for him. I don't think it's the case, but he can instruct whoever's doing it for him to stop trading. He could go through various steps to make sure that there was no appearance of conflict of interest, but he doesn't. And now there's a fairly well-regarded paper trail of instances in which he's been touting individualized stocks that he has of companies in which he has a stake. And so maybe the presidency does have a higher calling. We'd like to think it does have a higher calling. But if that is the case, he should treat it that way. And he should try to be above the idea of impropriety and using the office for a personal financial benefit.
It feels like he's just doing his updated and more powerful version, Sam, of Trump steaks, Trump wine, Trump water.
Well, yeah, except this one's got a B at the end versus an M. And it's not stakes we're talking about, it's crypto. And also he's using the levers of the government and the regulatory powers that he has to really benefit himself. It's not like he, if it was Trump water or Trump steaks, yeah, he could go on and push it in some newspaper or talk about it on TV, and the reach would be relatively minor. Obviously, Trump University was problematic because people were duped into it, but they were duped into it because he was advertising for it. In this case, he has the full weight and backing of the federal government. He has the biggest megaphones and the bully pulpit from which he is touting a bunch of stuff, including his crypto coin. And he's profiting while other people are losing money. And beyond that, of course, the question is, what kind of political decision-making and regulatory decision-making is he doing with the financial interest of his family and himself in the back of his mind?
So what's he doing with these Trump accounts? Is this the Band-Aid, Vaughn, to make it all seem better, the amount of money that he personally is making off being in the White House again. Let me play him this morning. You know what? I'll let you toss to this. This is how Donald Trump was introducing the Trump accounts to the American public today.
Right. This was for the president here announcing a policy that has widespread support. We should be very clear. Some Democrats in the House and Senate had proposed similar type baby bond ideas, these accounts where babies born this year and beyond, they get $1,000 into an account if you sign up through the IRS. I had a kid 3 months ago, and I've started this process, too. And with market growth, the account will grow. There is some stark contrast to a typical IRA, which, you know, if you invest once you have earned income, 18 or later, then those withdrawals can be tax-free, or a 529 savings account, which will also grow with the market. That is also tax-free if it's used for educational purposes. But this account, it is not wholly tax-free when you pull back from the account. And we should be clear, it's $1,000. And unlike past Democratic proposals in which account would be added to it every year in the future once it was established, that is not the case here. Yet $1,000 is something. At the same time, President Trump, right, when he's talked about his family businesses and how he was a self-made man despite his father having the real estate business before him, he said that he was only given a few $1 million worth of a loan, which hits at the heart of, right, when you're talking about social income disparity in America here in 2026. There's a big difference between those who have millions of dollars that they are able to invest, whether it be in the stock market or in real estate, versus a majority of young people in America that do not have that sort of access to financial capital. And yet I want to let you listen to the president here essentially justifying these accounts and the benefits of them while also using it to attack Democrats who he is here 4 months out from the midterm elections, including on July 4th in front of thousands on the National Mall, called Democrats communists. His new refrain here. Take a listen to the president moments ago here at the White House.
It's going to teach children to be entrepreneurial as opposed to the threat of communism that you're seeing a lot. This is not social democrats, by the way. That's a beautiful, we're social democrats, they say. They're not social, they're communists. They want to destroy our country. We're not going to let that happen. But this helps. Some children living in poverty, it can happen. And now they have a real chance. It's a big thing. It's a big thing.
Of course, for generations now, we have heard particularly Republicans use the refrain of the fear of communism to galvanize political support for their party. Democrats in elected office right now are not communists, are not proposing communist policies, but democratic socialism is on the rise. And what you hear from the president is trying to distinguish the difference. And yet what you hear at the same time that he is announcing these $1,000 Trump accounts is a policy that Democrats suggest could be a greater investment, understanding that the disparity, especially when you look at the type of investments the president is making into crypto and others, well, it really pales in comparison for what most of the country is going through when it's in terms of their own investment abilities on a day in and day out basis, Katie.
Ron, what is your sense of this $1,000 check into a bank account?
Well, I think the part that bothers me most is it's temporary. I mean, if you're born between January 1st of 2025 and January 31st of 2028, you get the benefit of the government's $1,000 contribution. It ends after that unless a subsequent president and Congress decide to extend that program. What's interesting when the president talks about socialism is that putting $1,000 into an individual account is a slightly socialist program insofar as it's redistributing money from the government to individuals who might be of lesser means, which is great. I'm all for it. And then the administration's been taking stakes in private enterprises now for quite a number of weeks. We don't normally associate that with free market capitalism. So there is some cognitive dissonance there. Again, I'm all for any kind of savings program that can help those who need the money. But again, that $1,000 contribution is entirely temporary. After 2028, you can still open a Trump account, but you won't get the government money.
All right, Ron, Vaughn, and Sam. Ron, Vaughn, and Sam. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate it.